Chapter 1. Tweet, tweet. Jack
sat up in bed. He stared out his window. The sky was dark gray. The sun would be rising soon. It's almost time, he whispered to himself. The day before, in the magic treehouse, Morgan's note had said, "Come back tomorrow in the early morning." Jack jumped out of bed. He put on his jeans and t-shirt. Then he grabbed his backpack and crept out into the hall. Jack peeked out Annie's room. She wasn't there. He slipped down the stairs and out the front door. Annie was sitting on the porch steps. Jack sat down beside her. "What are you doing?" he asked. "I was waiting for the birds to start singing," said Annie. "Then I was going to wake you up." Jack and Annie watched the sky go from dark gray to light gray. Then the birds began their song. "Tweet, tweet," said Annie. Without another word, Jack and Annie left their porch. They headed up the street to the Far Creek woods. It was cool beneath the trees. Jack and Annie hurried through the woods to the rope ladder. It hung from the tallest oak. At the top of the oak was a magic treehouse. They climbed up into the treehouse. It was barely light inside. Annie picked up the note lying on the floor. She held it up to the window and read aloud. "Dear Jack and Annie, Camelot is in trouble. To save the kingdom, please find these 4 special kinds of writing from my library. Something to follow, something to sand, something to learn, something to land. Thank you, Morgan." Jack took a deep breath. "Okay," he said. "We have your first special writing, a list from the Civil War." "We have the second," said Annie, "a letter from the Revolutionary War." "We have the third," said Jack, "a poem from the Pioneer Schoolhouse." "Now we just need one more," said Annie. "I wonder why we have to find these special writings from Morgan's library," said Jack. "How are you going to save Camelot?" "I don't know," said Annie. "But let's get going so we can solve the mystery. Where's our research book?" They looked around the treehouse. Their Pennsylvania book, the book that was brought home, was lying in the corner. Beside it was another book. Annie picked it up. "This is it," she said softly. She showed the book's cover to Jack. It said, "San Francisco, California, 1906. "California?" said Jack. "I've always wanted to go to California." "Me too," said Annie. She laughed. "I guess I told Miss Neely the truth after all." "Yeah," said Jack, smiling. The magic treehouse had taken them to the Pioneer School in their last adventure. There, Annie had told the teacher, Miss Neely, that they were on their way to California. Annie pointed at the cover of the California book. "We really wish we could go there," she said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still.
Chapter 2. Thunder Under the Ground.
"Nice clothes," said Annie. Jack opened his eyes. Annie was wearing a blue and white dress with a big sailor collar and white stockings. Jack was wearing brown Neil Lance pants, a jacket, a cap, and a tie. His backpack had become a leather bag. He and Annie both wore short lace-up boots. A church bell started to ring. Gong, 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 gong. "It rang 5 times," said Jack. "It must be 5 in the morning." "Yeah," said Annie. She was looking out the window. Jack looked with her. The early morning air felt fresh and cool. The treehouse had landed in a tree at the bottom of the hill. Painted wooden houses and gas lights lined the cobblestone street. A trolley car moved along tracks up the street. It rounded the top of the hill and disappeared. Tall buildings towered farther off. The sun was behind them, making pink streaks in the blue sky. "It's really pretty here," said Annie. "Yeah," said Jack. He opened the research book and read, "On Wednesday, April 18, 1906, San Francisco was the biggest city on the west coast of the United States. It had a population of 500,000 people. It was also one of the loveliest cities in the country." Jack pulled out his notebook. He wrote, "San Francisco, April 18, 1906. Biggest city in the West. Lovely." "Let's go," Annie said impatiently. Jack looked back at the book. He wanted to learn more. "Now," said Annie. She took the book and notebook away from him and put them into the letter bag. "Let's not waste any more time." Annie left the treehouse. "Doing research is not wasting time," Jack called after her. But he swung his bag over his shoulder and followed Annie down the rope ladder. When they had both stepped into grass, Jack looked around. "Where to?" he said. "Anywhere," said Annie. "Let's just explore to see the sights. We can be tourists." "Okay," said Jack. "But don't forget we have to find the writing for Morgan's library." They started up the cobblestone street. As they went down the steep hill, the sun rose above the tall buildings. The early light turned everything to gold. Stones, street lamps, and the glass window of the silent houses. "It's so quiet and peaceful," said Annie. "Yeah, everyone must still be sleeping," said Jack. Suddenly, out of the quiet came a deep rumbling noise. Jack stopped. He grabbed Annie's arm. "What's that?" he said. The noise got louder. It sounded like thunder coming from under the ground. The earth was shaking. Church bells clanged weirdly. The whole street began to move. The cobblestone rolled like waves in motion. "What's happening?" Annie cried. The chimneys fell off the roofs, gasped like toppling over. Bricks crashed to the street. "Get down!" shouted Jack. "Cover your head!" Jack and Annie crouched on the ground with their arms over their heads. All around them, rumbling, clanging, crashing, and breaking. The world was still. The rumbling stopped. Jack and Annie raised their heads. The air was filled with dust. "It's over," said Jack. "That must be an earthquake," said Annie. "I think so," Jack agreed. "I guess I should have let you do a little more research on this place," Annie said. "Yeah, probably," said Jack. "Except I don't know exactly what could be done." Jack suddenly stood up. His legs felt wobbly. As he brushed off his pants, a deep rumbling came again, louder than before. Then the terrible shaking started. It was even harder than before. Jack was hurling to the ground. The earth trembled and quaked. Jack bounced against the hard cobblestones. "Annie!" he cried. He tried to stand, but he fell again. Through the dusty air, he saw the tall buildings swayed against the sky. Roofs were curved in. Up and down the street, bricks, glass, and concrete shot down. It seemed like a long time before the dreadful noise and shaking finally stopped.
Chapter 3. The Great Shake.
A cloud of dust billowed around Jack. He could hardly breathe. He couldn't see, but he heard Annie coughing. Jack opened his mouth to call to her, but dust filled his throat. "Jack!" Between coughs, Annie shouted his name. "Jack!" "I'm here," he said hoarsely. "I think I'm in trouble," she said. Jack tried to sit up. He hurt all over. His clothes were ripped and covered with dust. His cap was gone. "Where are you?" he called. "Here," said Annie. Jack started to stand, but he fell down again. His legs were rather rubber. "But where?" he repeated. Jack cleaned his glasses, then looked around, but he still couldn't see Annie through the thick haze of dust. "I fell into the ground," said Annie. Jack crawled in the direction of Annie's voice. "Keep talking," he said. "Here," she coughed. "Here." Jack felt a ledge with his hands. He looked down into a huge crack in the street. Through the dust, he could see Annie right below him. "You found me," she said between coughs. I'll pull you out, said Jack. He grabbed Annie's hand. He tried to pull her out and crack, but she was too heavy. I can't do it, he said. Bring me something to stand on, Annie said. Maybe I can get out of myself. Jack stood up and stumbled away from the crack. He gathered an armload of bricks. Then he ran back to the cracks and handed them to Annie, one by one. Annie carefully stacked the bricks on top of each other. I need more, she said. Jack ran to get more bricks. He was afraid there would be another earthquake, and the crack would close, with Annie inside. He handed the bricks down to her. Hurry, he said. I'm hurrying, she said. At last, Annie finished stacking the bricks. She stood on the stack. With her bare hands, she slowly pulled herself up. Jack held her hand. She was covered with dirt. Her stockings were torn. Her knees were skinned. Are you hurt? Jack asked. A little scratch, said Annie. How about you? A little shaky, said Jack. Actually, he was very shaky. Me too, said Annie. I think San Francisco just had a really huge earthquake, Jack said. He coughed. His throat was clogged with dust. Annie coughed too. What's the book say? She said. Jack pulled that research book out of his leather bag. His hand was trembling. He could hardly turn the pages. I'll find it, said Annie. She took the book from him and found a picture of the torn-up street. She read aloud. At 5:30 a.m. on April 18, 1906, the people of San Francisco were shaken away by one of the biggest earthquakes the United States has ever known. Some called it the Great Shake. No wonder we felt shaky, said Jack. I wonder if lots of people got hurt, said Annie. They looked around. Through the dust-filled air, families were stumbling out of their crumbling houses. They all were barefoot and still wore the night clothes. Some babies were crying, but strangely the grown-ups were silent. They stared at the torn-up street and crumbling houses. Everyone must be in shock, said Annie. I know how they feel, said Jack. He gazed at the rubble all around them. He didn't know what to do. He couldn't think clearly. Annie looked at the book again. She read aloud. Just after the earthquake, broken chimneys, stoves, and lamps caused terrible fires. The fires raged for 3 days, nearly destroying all of San Francisco. Over 28,000 buildings burned down. That's terrible, breathed Jack. In the distance, all cloud of black smoke was rolling through the sky. The fires are starting, said Annie.
Chapter 4. What's the story?
Maybe we should leave, Jack said in a panic. He wanted to go get to San Francisco before the fires spread. We can't, said Annie. We have to find our special writing from Morgan's library, something to lend. Let's find it fast, said Jack. He and Annie started walking through the rubble. They stepped over the piles of bricks, chunks of concrete, and broken glasses. They passed fallen lamps and twisted trolley car tracks. They saw houses leaning to one side and people hauling their strings out of the street. We can't worry about our mission now, Annie said. We have to help. Help? How? Said Jack. He was so shaky he didn't think he could be much help to anyone. What about them? Said Annie. She pushed into some men frantically dragging bags out of the building and piling them into a stone wagon. Annie ran towards the wagon. What are you doing? She asked the man. We're trying to get these bags back down to harbor, said the wagon driver, so a boat can take them to the bay. Why? Asked Jack. So we can save Andrew's money from the fires, the man said. He pointed at the sky. The cloud of smoke was growing bigger and blacker. Can we help? Asked Annie. We're done, the driver said. You kids run to your parents and get out of the city. Jack wished Annie could ride the driver down the bay and be safe for fires too. But he could see the wagon didn't have room for them. Good luck, said Annie. Don't forget what I told you, the driver said. Then he and Annie's horses took off. The wagon turned onto the main street and disappeared over the hill. I wonder who we can help, said Annie. Jack took a deep breath. I don't know, he said. Maybe I'll take some notes. Jack pulled out his notebook. In wobbly handwriting he wrote, Bank money, wagon to bay, then boat. Hey, what's the story? A woman asked. Her voice sounded urgent. Jack looked up. A man and woman stood in front of them. A man wore a long dress and carried a notebook. The man wore a suit. He carried the big camera and three-legged stand. What story? Said Annie. The story with the bank. My name's Betty. I'm a reporter, said a woman. For television? Said Annie. What's that? Said Betty. Never mind, said Jack. He whispered quickly to Annie. She's a newspaper reporter. TV hasn't been invented yet. Oops, said Annie. So what's the story where the wagon and just left the bank? Betty asked Jack and Annie. Jack looked down at his notebook. They're going to save money by taking it to the bay and pulling on the boat, he said. Good reporting, worked Sonny, she said. Get out the blind fact. The photographer set his camera in the stand. He put his head under the back curtain and took a picture. Got it, said Brad. As the carpet was recommended, Betty turned to Jack and Annie. Go home and get your parents, kids, she said. Fires are burning out of control. We know, said Annie. By the end of the 3 days, the fires will burn nearly all of San Francisco. Betty looked curious. How do you know that? She asked. She's just guessing, Jack said quickly. Pretty gloomy guess, said Betty. Tell your folks not to catch the ferry. Get thousands of crowding in the building. Go to the Golden Gate Bar. Thanks for the tip, said Annie. Thanks for the story, said Betty. Then she and Fred hurried away. Jack and Annie looked around. Now many people seem to be fleeing their homes. Some are going up the hill. Some are going down. All old women pushing a wheelbarrow filled with pots and pans. A girl was carrying a suitcase and a cat. A boy was carrying a bird cage and a fish bowl. They're all going in different directions, said Annie. I wonder where Golden Gate Park is, said Jack. Maybe we should go there. Let's see if there's a map in their book. Jack looked in the research book. He found a map of San Francisco. Where are we now? She said. As he looked for his time, his man carrying on the road books and a beautiful building. The man was books in the back of the horse-drawn wagon. What's he doing? Jack asked Jack. I bet he's saving those books, said Annie. Saving books? Said Jack. He loved books. For a moment Jack forgot his fears. He rolled over down to save them himself. We better help, he said. Come on.
Chapter 5. Stop, stop.
Jack and Annie ran up the street to the book wagon. The man was carefully stacking books in the back of the wagon. He was covered with dust and his glasses were cracked. Hey, what's the story? Annie asked the man. Jack couldn't help smiling. Annie's head sounded just like a newspaper reporter. I'm moving all the rare books to the pavilion, the man said. Can you help? Asked Jack. Sure, there are only a few left at the door, said the man. Grab him, hurry! The fire's Market Street with the Sunday voting say. Jack and Annie went into the building. Near the door were two small stacks of books. Jack and Annie each gathered the stacks. The books looked very old and fancy. Some were in sparkling gold on the cover. Wow, whispered Jack. He and Annie carried the book outside. Careful, please, said the man. All these books are treasures, ancient Bella Elizabeth hand-painted books. The man carefully took the book off Jack and Annie's arms and put them into the back of the wagon. Thanks, he said, pushing his hat back. Run over now, the fires will soon. As the horses started up the hill, Annie gravely shouted, Good luck! I bet he was a librarian, said Jack. He opened the research book. He found a photograph of the building with the books.
Here
It is, he said. He read aloud. People tried to save special things, but they did not always succeed. Rare books from the library were moved to the pavilion building. When the pavilion building caught fire, all books burned. The building which had originally held them did not burn at all. "Oh no!" cried Jack. "Stop! Stop!" Clutching the research book, he ran after the wagon. Annie ran with him. "Stop! Stop!" they both yelled. They ran as fast as they could over the rock and cobblestone and up the steep hill. Near the top, the driver finally heard them. He brought the wagon to a halt. "You can't go to the pavilion," Jack cried. "You have to take it back to the building where they were," said Annie. "There won't burn there," said Jack, trying to catch his breath. "The building you're taking you to is going to burn instead." The driver looked at Jack and Annie as if they were crazy. "Your kids need to worry about yourself, not these books," he said. "Go home to parents. I'll take you to the library." Then the man snapped the reins and ran them over the hilltop. "Come back!" Jack cried. They watched helplessly as the wagon bumped down the street over the rubble. Smoke billowed up the bottom of the hill. "I can't believe it," Jack said. He was close to tears. "We tried, but we couldn't save them," said Annie. She touched Jack's shoulders gently. "All those books," a voice trailed off. "Hey," said Annie. "Someone's crying over there. Someone with your kids. Maybe we can help them."
Chapter 6. Something to Lend.
A woman in a blue bathrobe was sitting on the crumpled stone wall. She was sobbing into her handkerchief. Two boys with dark hair sat next to the woman. The boys wore dusty, torn pajamas. They were both barefoot. The younger one was watching the older boy ride on the rectangular piece of wood with a chunk of coal. Annie pulled Jack with her family. "Hi, I'm Annie," she said. The two boys looked up. "I'm Peter," said the youngest. "He's my brother Andrew, and she's our Aunt Mary." He pointed to his brother, then to the woman, as he spoke. Aunt Mary tried to smile through her tears. "Forgive me," she said. "I'm a bit shaken up." "We are too," said Annie sympathetically.
The house caught fire,
Peter said. "We escaped," said Andrew, "but we lost most of the things." "We lost our shoes," said Peter. Jack and Annie looked at the boys' bare feet. They were cut and bleeding. "Hey, my boots are just like boys' boots," Annie said. "One of you can wear them." "Take mine too," said Jack. He and Annie started unlacing their boots. "We can't just take your boots," said Andrew. "Then we'll lend you," said Jack. He and Annie handed their boots to the two boys. Thank you," said Aunt Mary. She started crying again. The two boys put the new boots on. The Peter whispered something to Andrew. Andrew held out the piece of wood to Jack and Annie. "Here's something we can lend you," he said. Jack and Annie read the poem the brother had written on a piece of wood. "There is no water, and still less soap. We have no city, but lots of hope." "Thanks," said Annie. "It's a great gift," said Jack. "We needed some hope."
It's the only thing we can lend you,
do,"
said Andrew.
"Land?"
"Lend?"
said Annie. She
She
looked at Jack.
"Oh,
wow! Thanks for the special writing. Something to land." Jack smiled. They could go home now. "You should go to the Golden Gate Park. That's what a reporter told us," he said to the boys and their aunt. "Is that where you're going?" asked Aunt Mary. She had stopped crying at last and looked stronger. "We have to go home to our parents," said Annie. "Will we be safe?" asked the aunt. "Yes, once we're home we're safe," said Jack. "Thanks for lending us your boots," said Peter. "You're good friends." "You're good friends," said Annie. "You've helped us more than you know," said Jack. "Be careful," said Aunt Mary. "We will," said Jack and Annie. They waved as the new friend headed off the park. Jack sighed. "Ready?" he said. Yeah, said Annie. I guess we just go back the way we came. Jack looked down the street. Smoke billowed up from the bottom of the hill. That might not be easy as it sounds, he said.
Chapter 7. Dynamite.
We better be careful, said Annie. They stepped in socked feet over the broken cobblestone, trying not to cut themselves. They headed down the hillside. On their way, they passed policemen carrying stretchers with injured people on them. They passed soldiers directing all those preparing to escape the fires. One man was trying to push the piano down the street. Another man was wearing a bunch of hats all piled on top of another. A woman carried her 3 little dogs in a bag. Everyone was trying to say it was important for them,
said Annie.
Like the librarian, said Jack, and us were trying to save the sign. He clutched a piece of wood.
When they were halfway down the hill, a soldier on a horse galloped in front of them.
Get off the street, we're setting off dynamite, he shouted. Dynamite? Said Jack. Yikes, said Annie. People started running in all directions. Jack and Annie looked around wildly for a safe place to go. Jack saw an alley. There, he said. They ran into the alley and crouched on the ground. Jack reached in the bag for the research book. He looked in the index for the red dynamite. He found it. Then he turned to the right page number and read it. After the fire started, the major had an idea. He thought that if some buildings were destroyed, the sparks would not fly from one room to the next. He ordered some buildings to be blown up by dynamite. His plan did not work. The firestorm raged from building to building, from street to street. Firestorm, Jack thought. The words sound terrible. Just as he put the book away, a huge blast of dynamite shook the ground. Dust and dirt fell everywhere, even down the alley. Jack clutched the sign on one hand. He covered his eyes with the other, and he did the same. Another huge blast rocked the ground. Jack tasted grit in his mouth. He looked at Annie. She was caked with dust from head to toe. He looked down at himself. He was just as dirty as she was. Hey, would you look at those two? Someone said. Now that's a story. Jack looked up. Betty, the newspaper reporter, and Fred, the photographer, were standing in front of them. Even though they were also covered with dirt, Fred was setting up his camera, and Betty was taking notes in her notebook. Hold up your sign, Sonny, said Betty. Too stunned to say anything, Jack held up the sign with a poem about hope. Fred took a picture. Another dynamite blast shook the ground. Come with us, we're headed for the park, said Betty. We can't, we're on our way home to our parents, said Annie. Well, get going and be careful, said Betty. Let's beat it, Fred. The photographer grabbed his camera equipment and the two of them rushed off. I don't think Betty and Fred recognize us, said Annie. I don't recognize us, said Jack. Another blast shook the ground. Come on, said Annie. Let's beat it. Jack and Annie jumped up. Jack put their sign in his bag. Then they started back down the hill. Chapter 8. Good luck, San Francisco. Jack and Annie ran over the cobblestones. Dynamite blast echoed behind them. They headed down the hill. Flames shot across the roof, traveling from one end to another. We're heading right in for audition, Jack shouted over the noise. We have to get going, Annie shouted back, before the treehouse catches fire. At the bottom of the hill, thick smoke was rolling through the street. It made Jack's eyes burn. Where's the treehouse? He shouted. Here, said Annie. Jack followed her voice. She was holding on to the rope ladder. It's still here, Jack said with relief. Of course, the treehouse wouldn't leave without us, said Annie. Don't you? Go, go, said Jack. Annie started up the rope ladder. Jack followed. They climbed into the treehouse and looked out the window. All around, buildings were going up the flames. Black smoke seemed to be smothering the city. Jack could scarcely breathe. His throat burned. His eyes were stinging. Annie grabbed their Pennsylvania book.
She opened it to the picture of Frog Creek and pointed. "I wish we could go there," she said. "Good luck, San Francisco." "Goodbye, San Francisco," said Jack. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still.
Chapter 9. The Wonderful Room.
The songs of early morning birds filled the woods. Jack opened his eyes and sighed. They were back in Frog Creek. He would breathe again. His eyes didn't sting anymore. He was wearing his own clothes, even his sneakers. "I wonder what happened to everyone," Annie asked anxiously. "Andrew, Peter, and their aunt, and Betty, and Fred, and all the other people."
Jack
pulled out his research book. He turned to the last chapter. He read aloud. After the earthquake fires were put out, people from all over the world sent help to San Francisco. The brave citizens of the city never gave up hope. Many even wore badges that said, "Let's rebuild at once." In less than 10 years, San Francisco was once again one of the loveliest cities in the United States. "Oh, good," breathed Annie. Hey, do you have our sign?" Jack reached again in his pack. He pulled out the sign from Peter and Andrew.
He placed it on the floor next to the list from the Civil War, the letter from the Revolutionary War, and the slate from the Pioneer Schoolhouse.
"We have all 4 writings now,"
he said.
"So what happens next?"
said Annie.
Suddenly, there was a roar. A bright light flashed through the treehouse. Jack covered his face. When he peeked over the tops of his fingers, he saw Morgan Le Fay. "Morgan!" Jack and Annie cried joyfully. They both hugged her. Morgan hugged them back.
We have found the 4 special writings for your library," said Jack.
Annie picked up the list and the letter.
Jack picked up the slate and the sign. Here they are, he said.
They
started to give everything to Morgan, but she held up her hand. "Do not give them to me," she said.
"Someone else needs them more." Suddenly, a blinding light flashed through the treehouse again. There came a great roar, then silence. When Jack and Annie opened their eyes, they were no longer in the magic treehouse. They were standing in a huge shadowy room. The room smelled wonderful, like leather, books, and wood-burning fire.
Flames crackled in a huge stone hearth. Along the walls was rows of tall bookcases filled with books.
"Welcome to my library," Morgan said softly. "Wow," whispered Jack. "Someone here is waiting to meet you," said Morgan. "I told him that 2 special messengers would soon arrive." "Where is he?" asked Annie. Morgan pointed to a man dressed in dark blue in the corner of the library. He sat in a chair. His head was bowed. His hair was black, streaked with silver.
"He looks tired," Annie whispered.
Yes, he and his knights have been defeated,"
Morgan said quietly. "He has given up all hope for his kingdom."
"How can we help them?"
asked Annie.
Morgan looked
down
down
at the special writings that Jack and Annie held.
"Would it
"Would it
help
help if we showed him these?" Jack asked. Morgan smiled.
Come on,
let's show
him,"
said Annie.
They
They
covered
crossed
the
the room and knelt before the tired-looking man. "Excuse me,"
Annie said.
said.
The man
The
looked
man
up.
looked up.
He
He had
held
sad gray eyes.
"We're Morgan's messengers.
We've come to help," said
said
Jack.
The man
The man shook his head.
"I don't
"I don't
understand," he said in a deep, tired voice.
You
"You're
are
children. How can you help?" "Sometimes children can help a lot,"
said Annie.
"Jack and I have helped the general, and we have wounded soldiers.
We
We
help
helped
people caught in an earthquake and the twister," Jack added.
The man
straightened up a little.
"That is brave," he
He
said.
said.
"We want to share how we did it,"
said Annie.
She
She
held up the list from the Civil War. "This tells you how to help wounded people," she said. She held up the letter from the Revolutionary War. And this tells you that even when things look their worst, you shouldn't give up, she said.
Jack held up the slate from the pioneer schoolhouse.
This
This
says,
says, if at first you don't succeed, try again,
he
he
said.
said.
Then Jack
Then
held
Jack
up
held
the
up the
piece
piece
of
of
wood
wood
from the San Francisco earthquake.
And
And
this says that when you've lost everything, you can still have hope, he said.
The man
The
studied
man
the
studied
four
the four
special
special
writings.
Then he
Then
looked
he
at
looked
Jack and Annie with piercing gray eyes. You are
You are
both very kind to find all these things and bring them to me, he
He
said.
said, Are you
Are you
magic?
magic?
No,
Oh, no, said
said
Annie.
Morgan is magic. We're just
We're
ordinary
just ordinary
kids.
kids.
The man smiled. He seemed less sad and weary now.
And I
And
am just an ordinary king, he said softly.
softly.
I suppose if two ordinary kids can find courage and hope, then an ordinary king can find it too. The man slowly stood up. I will go now and speak to my knights, he said. I will share the wisdom you have brought me. He wrapped his cape around him. He bowed to Jack and Annie.
Thank you,
Thank you,
he said. Then he strode bravely out of Morgan's library. Yes, thank you, said Morgan, walking over to Jack and Annie. You're welcome,
You're welcome,
they both
they said.
said.
These are for your library, said Jack.
He and
Annie
gave Morgan
the
a
four special writings.
Morgan smiled. Their wisdom will help many readers who come here,
she said.
Great,
Great, said Annie. It's time for you to go home now, said Morgan.
Jack
looked around Morgan's library.
He hated to leave. It was the most wonderful room he'd ever seen. Don't worry, you can come back,
said Morgan, reading his mind. You
You must come back,
for you
for
both have helped save Camelot.
Goodbye
Goodbye
for now.
Before
Before
Jack
Jack
or
or
Annie
Annie
could
could
speak,
speak, there
there
was
was
another
another
blinding
blinding
flash.
Then they
Then
were
they
home
ran
again, in
in
the
the
treehouse,
in the Frog
Frog
Creek,
in
in
the
the early morning.
Chapter 10. The Mystery of Morgan's Library.
I can't believe we took a trip to Morgan's library,
said Annie.
Jack smiled and nodded. It was incredible, wasn't he?
Said Annie.
And yeah,
Yeah,
said
said
Jack.
Jack.
A
strong breeze gusted through the treehouse window. It blew open their research book about San Francisco. Annie reached for the book.
Jack,
She said,
look at this. She
She
pointed
pointed
to a photograph in the research book.
It
It
showed a boy and girl covered with dirt. The boy held a sign. It was a poem about hope. Annie read the caption aloud.
After the earthquake, while fires raged through the city, two brave children tried to give hope to others.
Annie laughed. Those
Those
brave children are us, she said. That's the
That's the
picture
picture
Fred
from
took of us before we left San Francisco. Jack
Jack
laughed and shook his head with amazement. Annie
And he
closed
closed
the
the
book.
book.
I guess we are two brave kids who try to give hope, she said.
We
just
have
gave some to King Arthur, didn't we?
King Arthur?
said Jack.
Yeah,
said
Annie. She started down the rope ladder.
That was the mystery of Morgan's library. We had to give four special writings to King Arthur so he could get his hope and courage back and save Camelot.
That wasn't King Arthur,
said Jack. He threw on his pack and followed Annie.
Sure it
Sure
was,
it was,
said
said
Annie,
Annie,
stepping
stepping
onto the ground.
Didn't
Didn't you
you
hear him
say,
say, I'm just an ordinary king. Get it?
Get it?
King. But King
But
Arthur's not
an
only
ordinary
a kid,
said
said
Jack.
Jack.
Well,
Well,
he
she
thinks
thinks
so,
so,
said Annie.
I know
it was him.
I
I
feel it.
feel it. She
She
smiled.
smiled.
Then she started through the Frog Creek woods. Jack stared after her.
King Arthur.
As
As
birdsong filled the early morning woods, Jack thought about their visit to Morgan's library.
He
He
remembered the sad king
and how
and
their
how the
writings
writings
seemed to give him strength. Maybe
Maybe
Annie was right. Maybe they really had helped King Arthur save Camelot. And maybe someday they would go back.
Hurry, Jack!
Annie
called. Before Mom and Dad wake up!
Coming, Jack shouted. And he took
off
off after her, running for home. Finally.
오늘 24권의 마지막 챕터의 마지막 장이었습니다. 다음 영상도 기대해 주시길 바라겠습니다.